Call with Dads, your podcast for unscripted conversations and honest opinions about what matter to dads. Join the call in this journey called fatherhood. Now here are your hosts to get things started. E.A. Maynard, the man of many words, and some of them could make sense.
Hi, I'm E.A. Maynard.
Along with Mr. Pancakes, who is working to bring back family traditions starting with breakfast.
This is Mr. Pancake, and this is Call with Dad.
So yeah, let's discuss this.
Yeah.
Allowances, and forgive me, I have a little frog in my throat every now and then, but I have mixed feelings about allowances, and then there's the other option that I've read talk about where you pay your kids for certain chores, so cleaning the dishes is $1, whatever it might be.
Right.
When I was a kid, I got paid, I think I got paid an allowance for chores, however you want to word it. So I'd mow the grass and I would get $5 or whatever it was back in the 90s.
Right.
So where $5 actually had some value.
Had a little bit of value. Yeah.
Yeah, compared to now. But that's here or there. We're not going to dig into economics.
Yeah.
Trust me, I can go on a rant on that alone for days. But
yeah, me too.
Where do you stand, in all truth, with giving kids allowances, or do you kind of go for the stance on paying for chores?
Yeah, right. So I don't know that. Yeah, it's like you said. That one's kind of a hard one to deal with. It's kind of because everybody's different, everybody's family is different, everybody's ideas are different, and everybody's situation is different. So it's kind of all depending on a lot of stuff. Me personally, I I won't be giving my child any kind of allowance, like just for existing, like at all, zero. She will
Right.
get $0. Um, as far as a set amount, I probably won't do that either. Even if she does do chores, I will probably me and my wife were kind of talking about it. We were talking about potentially having a list of chores and having amounts that each one is worth. You know what I mean? And the more she does, the more she can earn. Um, as well as some won't even be monetary. You know what I'm saying? Some will be, you know, yes, you can go to your friends this weekend or whatever, something like that. Some will be monetary and some will be permissions, to where she essentially will have to earn a lot of that stuff. She won't get a free handout. She won't get no matter what, $10 a week or stuff like that. 'Cause I I feel as though even if you have a set rate of chores, like here you need these are all your chores or whatever, these are your weekly chores, whatever, but you get $20 a week or whatever. If you set that, then in some instance there's gonna be a fight with the kid no matter what. You know what I mean? Because you're gonna give
Right.
them the $20. 20 they get the $20 every week no matter what, whether they do the chores or as long as they do all their chores. But I mean, you're gonna have to argue with them. It's like getting your kid to eat. You have to argue and argue and argue. Eat, 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 please eat, until you eventually just go, okay, don't eat. And then when they don't eat and they come to you hungry, you go, okay, your dinner's still in the fridge. Cheerio, mate. You know what I mean? If you,
Right.
it's the same concept. I feel. If you just give them that set of chores to do, they'll kind of do some or do half of them or do most of them or even do them all, but they'll slack off on them to where they won't be completely done just because they're going to get their $20 as long as they did their chores. You know what I'm saying? So if you set like here's a list of 10 chores, you do these, and each one of this one's worth $3, this one's worth $2, based on how much time or whatever. You just kind of you and your wife sit down and write that out. I mean, it can't take long. You don't got to be serious and write out
Right.
a corporate document or nothing. Just Just
Right.
a list of 10 basic chores, and go off a general idea. Vacuuming the house takes 30 minutes, $3 or something, something stupid like that. That to me just seems more functional, because it seems better also, because they know the repercussions. They know the ramifications of each chore. You do the chore, you get the money. If you don't do the chore, or do it half,
Right.
ASS, you do it like a cheapo, you don't do it all the way, you don't get the money, or you get a half the money. Instead of $2, you get $3, or $2, you get $1. You know what I mean? So
Right.
it's kind of like that. It kind of incentivizes them to want more, so they'll complete or do all of their tasks. And if they choose not to do all of them, hey, $8 is enough. I don't need all 10. It's
Right.
their own decision. They made the decision, not me. So
Now, here's kind of my thought on this is
yeah,
I'm I'm really against giving straight out allowances for nothing, just for existing.
yeah,
Now, I
right,
know some people's argument with that is, well, you teach them money management, things like that. And fine, if that's what you want to do, if you don't want your kid to learn the value of the money, is my opinion.
mhm,
And,
yeah,
like you said, everybody's family situation is going to be different.
right,
And every dad, every parent's going to figure out what's best for their family and they're out to do it.
mm,
Me, I mowed grass, I shoveled lawns to make money when I was a kid.
mm,
I did all these things to make some money. And
right,
sadly enough, even my mom's giving me a hard time for quite some time when I was a kid. I went out, shoveled snow for like 20 people, came home, and our sidewalk needed shoveled, and some kid came up, and I I was charging $5 a walk to shovel, and I gave him $2 to shovel it. I'm like,
yeah,
I'm tired. I'll just pay this kid to shovel my
yeah,
sidewalk,
right,
which I also offered him less than if what I was charging others to do.
right,
But it's kind of that whole process of, because I knew my value, I knew my time at that point,
mhm,
I had more of an understanding of what I was willing to do. But
right,
it's also the fact of I I was willing to go out and work for my money,
mhm,
and if every one of these people that I went out and shoveled or mowed their yard, they would look at the yard, look at the sidewalk and say, okay, that looks good. And that's where I learned a lot of things there.
right,
The So going out and working, I think, is something kids should do. Now, mind you, nowadays, going out shoveling sidewalks and mowing grass,
mhm,
I mean, my neighborhood, you charge $30 a mow, and a lot of these people have professional mowing companies
yeah,
going through doing their yard, so it's not like a kid's going to
right,
say. But in the same token, it's like having them do it at my own house. This
mm,
is So when my son's old enough to mow the grass, because I mow my own grass, I
right,
prefer to do it, and I'm not going to have him do it every time the grass needs mowed. I'm going to do it myself too. But the fact
right,
is I want him to learn responsibility, learn to do things, and I
yeah,
don't want him thinking if he's contributing to the house, he needs to make money off of me to be able to do something around the house.
yeah,
Now, I do agree with if he does something. So to me, if he does like homeschooling, a little harder to say, if you get A's, you get this, you
yeah,
know, grade based or producing something like that, what he's doing outside of the house. So that's something my wife and I are going to have to discuss of, hey, because we would probably do it more of a, your job is learning, but you have to contribute to the house as well. So if you
right,
do this, this, and this in your schoolwork, you can make money.
yeah,
Or if you do a apprenticeship and you do a free apprenticeship, I'll give you money for doing that apprenticeship.
Right.
Things like that, I
Yeah.
think makes sense to me.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
and I looked up what a lot of the pros and cons were, and
Hmm.
like I said, one of the pros that people said about allowances, it allows kids to learn financial understanding,
Yeah.
about realizing what a dollar is versus a nickel. And I mean, these are
Yeah.
things that should be taught in kindergarten anyhow,
Yeah.
or at
Those are
least first grade.
basic knowledge.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
the general purpose, the general sentiment seemed to be they wanted more and more people to believe that giving a kid money for nothing had value, in
Yeah.
it allows kids to kind of grasp money better. But and then on my side of that thought was they don't understand what the value of that
Yeah.
dollar. I mean, in all truth,
Right.
literally, if I say, "Hey, son, I'm gonna give you a wooden nickel for doing this job," and
Yeah.
he worked for a wooden nickel and he got that wooden nickel, then went out and tried to spend the wooden nickel, he would learn, hey, they're willing to give me this for the wooden nickel that I'm trading. Because all it
Right.
is using money is just a bartering system.
Right.
So
It's just
you
a trade.
trade your money for work for money, you trade your work for money, and then you
Right.
go out and you use that money to trade for something else. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not a new concept in any means of
Right.
history. It's just different things, different trade, etc.
Yeah.
etc.
Right. Right.
So for me, it's a
Yeah.
big learning the value of what your time is worth. I mean, if you're working for money, if you're working for knowledge, whatever you're working for,
Right.
you need to know the value of that. That's
Yeah.
kind of why I don't think just giving an outright allowance works well, in my opinion, because what do you learn other than your parents are an ATM?
Right. Yeah. You don't really getting just a simple allowance. I mean, they can sit there and say all day long that the kid learns about money and this and that, and all they really do is all you're really teaching your kid. Yeah. Number one, your parents are going to give it to you, and number two, you just learn. Oh, this physically, this is a dollar, and if I want something over there, I need to use this and give it to them. That's all they really do. They
Right.
learn the different denominations. Then they learn that they have to use that to get this over there. They don't actually learn a the value of money, and then b the proper etiquette and whatever it takes and how to manage your money. And they also don't you really learn how do you earn money or earn more money. You know what I mean? That's why, yeah, I agree. There's things that you need to find a way to teach your kid to learn how to earn more, or if they don't do a good job, sorry, you're going to get cut less or whatever. And those are just on simple, simple, different allowances or whatever, different chores or whatever. But I mean, there's also all kinds of other things to do. I mean, you could also, like you were saying, the mowing of the lawns and stuff.
Right.
Like for me and where I lived, I mean, there really wasn't lawns. It was kind of out in the middle of the woods in South
Right.
Florida, more swamp and alligators. uh, but so as far as doing that stuff, there was a when I was 15, my mom, kind of said you need to get your butt up and go, get some money if you want to start eating lunch, at school. And I was like, well, said go get a job. They didn't even help me get a job. They just told me what I need to do.
Right.
Hey, go in there and you're 15, so you're kind of learning, and they know that. You're not gonna go work at the bank or nothing. They won't allow it. So you need to go to the pizza joint and go ask if you can wash dishes. Go over to that restaurant there, go wash dishes, go, find the paper route, and you ride your bike around the neighborhood and sling papers out the window or something, or, off your bike or whatever you got to do. But just go ask if they're hiring and if you could fill out an application. And so that's what I did. I walked over to a pizza joint that was down the road, asked if they were hiring. I said, yeah. I said, okay. Uh, what can I do for you? And they said, all right, I'm gonna wash dishes. And literally 5 minutes later, I was in the kitchen washing dishes. I don't
Right.
even get a chance to say, okay, I'll start Monday. Nope, it's just all right, come on. And they just pulled me back there. Um, it was one of those small little pizza joints that, you know, they paid you in cash for work, and they never actually gave me a check or took my social number down and all that stuff. Just the end of every week, they gave me $100. You know,
Right.
so it was kind of like one of those type of jobs. But it got me my lunch every single day at school because my mom was like, "I'm not making you lunch no more. You're 15. It's time to figure that out on your own. You want to make lunch? Make your own lunch, or go get a job and buy lunch at school." And that's what I did.
Well,
So,
it makes sense.
I just feel like that's one of the better ways. A couple different ways: earn money, or chores. You can do chores to an extent, especially as they get older. When they start getting
Right.
16, 17, that's when the chores, doing chores to earn a little cash is kind of, that's what, to me, it needs to end. And
Right.
that's where they need to find their way out the door, earning outside money to bring in, via other people, because you can only teach them so much and value up into a certain point. Once they get to a certain point, then they need to realize mommy and daddy ain't going to do it all. If you want money, you need to go convince other people to give it to you. So that's kind of that's kind of my idea on the factor.
And that brings up another topic on this, another item on this topic is at what age do you think? Because forgive me, but my 5
Yeah.
year old's not going to be doing chores for money or
Right.
anything like that. I mean,
Yeah. For sure.
it's just not happening. But
Yeah.
maybe at 10 years old, I can say, okay, let's start doing this. But
Oh,
now he gets money for Christmas or he gets money for his birthday, things like that. It
yeah.
goes into a piggy bank and what so
Yeah.
have you. And
Right.
I'm hoping by the time he gets to a certain age, that piggy bank's full. We could take him to a bank, start him his
Mhm.
own account, things like
Right.
that,
Right.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
My daughter actually already has all that stuff.
does she?
But she don't know about it. I mean, it's an account that we build for her. It's I mean, we have a cash account and we have a stocks account. So
Right,
we buy stocks for her, and we also put a little cash in. So that way they both kind of build up just for her for the future. She's probably not going to know about it until she's like, I'm done with. If she goes to college, if she decides, that's when she'll figure it out. When she's
right.
much older, we'll tell her to give it to her.
And depending college, like I told my wife, depending on what our kids want to be in
Right.
life, college might not even be
Right.
necessary.
Right.
I
Might
mean,
not be a thing for her.
yeah, I'm not going to send my kid to, probably by the time they go, it's 100 grand a year because college. But
Yeah.
I'm not sending them to college to pay that much a year just for them to learn something that they can learn in 5 minutes online and have a job.
Right.
I
Yeah, for
mean,
sure.
so my opinion of college has gone way down, especially after I went through college.
Right.
I mean, the sad thing is after I went through, got my degree, I didn't have the high thought of college, but I knew I needed that piece of paper.
Yeah.
After I got my degree, I realized college was worth a whole lot less than what you do with it.
Yeah.
So, unless it's a specialized, if you're going for a doctor, yes, please
Right.
go to school, learn how to be a actual doctor, learn actual medicine. If you're going to be a lawyer
Right.
or an architect, yeah, learn those
Yeah.
specific things.
Yeah. You have to learn that stuff, but right.
Yeah, but I mean, I'd say going for business, unless it's international business law or something narrow down, but like me, I have a degree in business, and I think I honestly think the only thing it taught me that I could use other than having a couple stories to tell has
Hmm.
been the writing, which I mean, right
Yeah.
now you could go online and do an online course for writing, and
Yeah. Get Right.
Cost you $50 maybe.
Right. Yeah. Like learning how to do Excel and all that stuff and PowerPoint and
Right.
all these other things. I YouTubed it, so
See,
it was easy.
I learned all the way before YouTube and this and that happened,
Yeah.
but I had to cheat.
Right.
This was back in 1999 or around that time frame when I
Right.
got my first office job, and I had a computer at home where I was trying to teach myself to use everything to do the computer stuff. And
Right.
again, part of learning to save money so you can buy your own stuff
Right.
goes back to that. But I had ferrets, and after
Mm,
that, I had a cat, which
right.
my pets would climb up on me like pets do, but they would
Yeah.
walk across the keyboard.
Right.
And if you're in a program and the pet walks across and hits a key while you're holding down something, and then
Nah.
all this stuff happens,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, wait a minute, what happened? I
Right.
ended up going into the program's help section and learning what short keys did what.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, the learning that saves me a ton of time. I
Right.
I went through most of my day without even touching the mouse at sometimes.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah.
we're getting off topic.
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
mean, generally,
Right.
it's the value of working, value of knowing what you're doing. I think
Right.
I think one it besides just giving the kid the understanding of money, under
Hmm.
uh, seeing that, hey, I worked for this. I got this. And
Right.
then I think that's also another valuable thing.
Hmm.
But we were talking about ages. So what age
Yeah.
do you think would be a good age to
To start with
the
that stuff.
start with the value
Right.
chore values or whatever?
Uh, I mean, I don't know. Personally, like I mean, obviously, I don't. My kid isn't there yet, so it's kind of a learning as I go. Right now, I'm kind of
Right,
in that process of learning. I can tell you, based on experience, my 5-year-old just turned 5, so I've been
right.
dealing with her as a 4-year-old. So haven't dealt with her as a 5-year-old yet, but she's 5 now. My 5-year-old, yeah, good luck on getting her to do chores.
Right,
Yeah, it's nothing but an argument. And it's basically right now she's learning to do general, like very small time, general idea like responsibilities, like picking up her room, getting dressed in the morning, make sure she eats her breakfast all the way, and all the breakfast, not just one bite and scream the rest of the day, So she's essentially still toddler minded. Um, so I don't, and I do know a couple other kids that are like 6 and 7, that are the same. They're a little bit better, and maybe they can do one or two different more things than what my daughter can do. So I would say probably around that age, 7 is, depending on, because I would say 6 or 7 is where you can implement something like, just, and it better be like one thing, what I mean? Something
right,
small. One thing, um, like 6 o'clock every night, brush your teeth. And you brush your teeth. I'm not helping you. You know what I mean? Something
right,
like that. Something simple, basic. And then as they get, into 8, you could probably, every Sunday they have to clean up their room. Um, and brush their teeth. Uh, and then 9, a little bit more, and then as they, I would say that's where you start progressively adding on and tacking on. 10 is probably where I can say 10 to 11 years old is where I would say is when you probably are going to implement an entire list of chores and start implementing like actual, money and things like that. Um, I mean, you may be able to do it a little earlier, 9, something like
right,
that. But when they're that young, 8, 9, they're not really, thought process really isn't money. Their thought thought process is general responsibility. They're essentially learning responsibilities at that age. And as they get a little bit older, probably 10 to 11, that's when you can be like, oh, well, what do you think about getting $2 every time you clean your room? And, if you save it up, that thing over there only costs 12. So, it takes 6 times for you to clean your room, where you get $12 to buy that thing. So if you do your chores, you can earn enough money. I mean, that's when you start implementing that. To me,
All right, now here's a little concept that, as we're discussing, came into my mind of kind of something I do right now. My son being 5 years old, turns 6 coming in the spring and such. But
right?
so I'm with us doing homeschooling kindergarten, and
Mhm.
literally right now he's the only subject he's still in kindergarten is in math, and
Right.
that's general math, but he's also doing first grade math on off on with his mom and such. So me,
Yeah.
he's on kindergarten math. He's on first grade science, second grade reading, things like that. So with
Right.
that being said, let go, dumbass. Come here. But what? No, do not jump up there. Sorry, kitty. But the what I do is my son with the schooling and such. We
Yeah.
do online schooling, so I'll have him on the computer.
Mhm.
And the reading section or the language arts section, he'll go through and their setup for the program we're using, they'll have activity, 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 then story, where he gets to read a story.
Right.
And the story is way beneath his reading capability, but I
Yeah.
have him on that because I want him to learn certain rules and learn these different things. The fact is that with everything said and done, when we go to do, say, for example, science, or there's
Yeah.
a on math, he has to do a quiz or a test on it because they do have test sections in the science and math.
Right.
For every answer he gets, I'll get those little individual M&Ms. Like I'll open up a package and there's a whole bunch of individual small M&Ms in there and things
Mhm.
like that, right? Or skills or whatever candy I have a little snack size of. And I make him a rule that for every question he gets right, he gets one of those pieces.
Right.
So I guess kind of my ranting on this direction would be there's there's not just solely the the whole teaching that chore process or
Mhm.
allowance with just financial, but
Yeah.
right now for him at 5 years old, candy is worth more than one piece of
Right.
M&M is probably worth more than $1 because
Right.
what's he going at 5 years old? What's he going to do with $1? You know?
Right. And we've actually done that. So that's a good point. We've actually done stuff like that. You eat all your breakfast and you can have this piece of whatever, or, what I mean? So yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
So I guess kind of looking at it is adding the money value into it. I would go with what you're saying around 10 years old, where
Right.
that money aspect has more understanding
Yeah.
to them. Hey, and they can do more chores and do things like that.
Right.
But kind of getting a sense of tit for tat. If you do this, I give you
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
kind of
Parental
mentality is,
responsibility. Yeah.
yeah, you can start off because right now when he gets an answer wrong, my son, I swear to God that by the time he finishes his school, this and that, he's going to probably be smarter than everyone in my house. And don't get me wrong, we're no dummies, but he's gonna be smarter than us. I'm hoping my
Yeah.
daughter follows more with his examples. And
Mhm.
but already at 5 years old, the boy is, sm- like I said, reading second, third grade level.
Right.
science. He's already in first grade science,
Yeah.
and
I mean, that's good. Yeah.
yeah,
Our daughter's kind of, I don't know what she's reading at. She's reading a little bit better, but I don't know. I'm not really home enough to read. I mean, my wife works with her a lot, but yeah, she's starting to do the same. Like we're working with her and like reading uh different things and hey, good job, here's this or whatever. You did really good. So
right
that
now,
those are absolutely good points.
like right now, I'm not. We definitely don't have any sponsors or anything like this. So me mentioning this company I
Right.
use called timeforlearning.com.
Hmm.
Obviously not sponsoring. If they want to sponsor us, we are okay with that. Trust me, we're not going to turn down sponsors. But the
I
fact
need a
is
move.
we use this company here because I did a lot of research, and with how my son is, he's very visual. He's very logistically smart. So he can
Yeah.
think things through in a certain way.
Right.
Whereas for me, I think everything through images and pictures and what so have you.
Yeah.
So for him, this program works well because it's also meant for kids with ADHD
Hmm.
or like they just don't sit. And
Yeah.
this kind of goes back to my rant about why I'm so much against public and private schools is with my son, he would probably, as no matter how smart he is, he would probably be kicked out of both because like when we do our educations, getting him to sit, like we'll
Right.
do an hour and a half of class, and he's on the table, he's in my lap, he's back in his chair,
Yeah.
he's chasing after the kitty, and I'm telling him to get his butt back in the chair.
Right.
But
That's that's mine too.
yeah, and it's normal, but in school, one of the big things is they want kids to sit, shut up, and behave.
So, yeah.
And I refuse to put my kid on medication just because he's a normal boy, because he's a normal
Exactly.
kid. So for me, the whole concept is to get him learning things, and that my wife doesn't really like it because she doesn't like using candy as a incentive, but because dentist bills, but
Right.
but it's also I've learned that if I take that bag of candy and I've learned what his value system, what he considers valuable. So like in language arts, going through all those activities and getting to that story
Yeah.
is his reward. That story at the end of that section for language arts is his reward because he can go through, he can read the story, and it's I think 13 sentences or maybe 15 sentences throughout the whole story. So it's not like but it capitulates his interest enough that he sits there, he does it, and he gets interested in it.
Right.
So I think the being vague about how to start allowances and reward systems for a kid depends on one, what you're trying to reward them for. Because I wouldn't reward my kid for eating his food with money,
Yeah.
but you know, hey, eat all your dinner. That pudding that you made earlier today, you can have some of that pudding.
Right.
Things like that. Reward
Yeah.
systems in that sense makes perfect sense to me.
Right.
And again, it goes to your family system.
Right. Yeah.
If you're a single dad trying to raise two kids and your budget's tight as can be, I wouldn't suggest you to put yourself in
Right.
debt to give your kid an allowance.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But
I mean, I was reading some stuff about like parents overdoing reward systems as well. So I would say, I mean, reward systems are great to an extent. Uh, you can't make your kid do everything off of a reward system.
Right.
Um, you know what I mean? So, for example, the perfect example is like, sometimes we use it for eating, but a lot of times we don't also, eat your food and you can get, you can earn, you get that piece of chocolate or whatever the case may be. But sometimes it's, eat your dinner, you need to learn that we made that food for you and you have food, because in an hour you're going to go, I'm hungry, and then you're going to want chips or whatever nonsense, and I'm going to
Right.
go, no. I'm not going to just waste a bunch of money on you for a bunch of stuff and you just think that that's just simply how it's going to be. I'm sorry, no, you're going to have to learn at some point to um what is it, be grateful for the things you do have, for the things
Right.
you have accepted. So there is a level of overdoing it as well. If you do the eat your food, I'll give you this every single time, eventually they're going to start to learn that that's they're going to start to realize that, or think that you owe them that if they ate their dinner, you know
Right.
and you definitely don't want that. They ought to learn to eat their dinner because you made them food. So
Right. Well, and that's another thing is as they grow, using some of those chores to show them the value of
right.
actually doing those chores that you've done,
Mhm.
so that, like, if you're cooking dinner all the time, once they get old enough, which again, that's gonna fall back to how responsible your kid is, but
Yeah.
start having them, like, right now, teaching my son how to make stuff that doesn't involve the oven or the stove, you
Right.
know? So, showing the effort that goes into it, one, I believe teaching them cooking teaches reading, because you have to read the instructions, understanding,
Yep.
math,
Yep.
and understanding the process of food, because,
Right.
everyone, I hate to say it, but it seems like nowadays everyone just kind of expects food to be right there in front of them.
Right. You
And
expect it to be done, ready.
oh yeah, and the big thing is people just don't think about what the
Right.
process of putting the food in. I read something, I forget where I read it, but they were talking about less and less people are cooking at home,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
they're using dinners and all their
Yeah.
stuff like the dinner apps or the food apps,
Yeah.
and or going out to restaurants as a
Right.
regular, and they heat the leftovers. So there's a large amount of people that don't even know how to cook,
Yeah.
that are trying to survive on their own,
Right.
and that's just kind of
Terrible.
stupid. I
have you
shouldn't say
seen
stupid.
have you seen those apps where, I mean, you're still cooking the food, but they essentially send you individual meals, like all the ingredients, like done. Or they send you all the ingredients for 3 meals, like done. It's just all, each thing's individually wrapped, and then they wrap it all in one. You just undo it, and opens it up and shows you instructions. Take these 3 things, put them here. Take those, do that, and like I understand those are okay to an extent, but at some point, man, you got to learn to just do it. This is where this is where teaching your kid to cook as a younger child um, develops that exploration.
Right,
And whether we like it or not, exploration is part of cooking and eating. It's how we
right,
learned how to make things, and that's how we learn how to make new things. That's how we also learn how to make do with what we have. So
right.
uh,
And I know one day
yeah.
personally, I have a goal of setting up and this is way off in the future, because the process of doing this is going to be immense, but I'd love to set up like a program that allows kids to go to restaurants, learn how to
Mm,
cook, learn how to prep, learn how to do all these things from an actual chef, even if it's a chef
right.
at a pancake house, you know?
Yeah.
But the process is or the thought behind it is with all the different things that are learned there. One is, and I severely believe this is the people that work in a restaurant at some point in their lives learn a completely different value of things than anybody that never has touched the service industry.
Right.
So I'll admit I'm a jerk at times, and I'm perfectly okay depending on the situation with being a jerk because you just have to be at times. I mean,
Right.
if you're not, people's going to walk all over you. But for the most part, I try to be nice-ish to people in the service industry because I know the efforts of it. I've worked in kitchens when I was a kid. I design restaurants and talk with chefs and restaurant owners on a regular basis now. So understanding that whole industry, I think would be a valuable thing. And one is it it'll teach kids with any luck how to cook, how to measure, how to figure all this stuff out so they can do it in their own world. Teach them the hustle and bustle of an actual kitchen, things like that, which
Right.
it goes back to learning a value to an action or a service.
Yeah.
And
Right. It's
those
part of
are
the reasoning behind chores in the first place is learning the
right.
idea of value. Yeah.
So I
Absolutely.
mean, but and depending on how traditional you want to look at things, I mean, in all truth, the reason people had kids was so that they could do chores around the farm.
Yeah.
Like, your chore is milk all the cows. Your chore
Right.
is to plow the field.
Yeah.
So,
Right. Yeah.
so the
That was
whole
kind of the
concept,
idea back in the day. More kids that they would have, the more,
like,
people they would have to work the farms or prep the food. If it was a boy, it was outside working. If it was a girl, it was inside working. So
yeah, I mean,
yeah.
it's just how it was. And,
Right.
you know, I don't know exactly when in history the concept of paying your kids for the work they did, but I mean,
Mm,
I understand the value of teaching the value of money. Like I said,
right.
teach the value of effort, this and that. Personally, I'm hoping that by the time my kids get to a certain age, my son, my daughter, they figure out, hey, I can go and offer this service, cleaning up somebody's yard, mowing grass for the one person that doesn't have the lawn service, whatever
Right.
it might be. But
Yeah.
learning those values and those things are important for me to teach my kids.
Right.
And
Absolutely.
it it's easy just to say, okay, well, here's 20 bucks, do whatever you need to do. Don't bother me for another week. This is all you have.
Right.
Because then they're going to sit there and say, okay, well, I want to buy this book or I want to
Mhm.
buy this video game or
Right.
whatever it might be, this toy or
Yeah.
some something.
Right.
And if you're sitting there like, oh, well, I'm $40 short, you're going to say, okay, well, here's what we can do.
Right.
I can give you assigned chores and advance you the money, but you have to work it off.
Yeah.
And you could do that, or you could say, tough, you don't have the money. You have to save up the money
Good.
and you have to work to get that money. We'll come back. And what you could also do is watch to see if it goes on sale. Teach them
Yeah.
sales. I mean, there is value to it,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. For sure.
I don't think like you said, some parents you've read or you said you read about some parents just overdoing it with
Right.
everything you do. Like
Mhm.
personally, my kids are not going to get money for cleaning the dishes and loading the dishwasher.
Right. That's your
So
that's your chore for eating.
yeah. So I mean,
You're
now
welcome.
mind you, I might give them money for yard work,
Yeah. Right.
but for
You ate
inside the
my food.
yeah, for inside the house, you help clean, you vacuum, you do the dishes once they
Right.
get to the appropriate age.
Mhm.
Um, if I'm changing out a bunch of electrical stuff, I might pay them to help me out as my assistant for that.
Right.
Things like that make sense. But
Yeah, for sure.
teach them the value of that makes sense. But also need to teach them the value of being part of the house and doing the actual
Yeah,
housework.
right. Being part of
So,
a household and doing work not for something, just because it's how we maintain a household.
right,
Yeah,
finding that happy balance that allows somebody to bring their kids into the ability to learn value,
right.
gratitude. Because, I mean, I used to say there's always somebody looking to take your job. Right
Mhm.
now, that's kind of iffy because it seems like finding somebody for a job anymore is difficult enough.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
generally, it's it's that whole concept of learning value because I guess here's another thing is if you think about it, and whatever your political stance is for the people listening to this, you know, if your kid grows up and doesn't learn the value of making money and they just expect to do it, the
Mhm.
likelihood is they're going to sit there and go, and I'm not saying every kid's going to do this or doing this is going to cause every kid to end up this way, but I fear that kids are going to sit there and grow up saying, well, I got allowance for nothing when I was growing up. I went
Right.
to school. I never worked a day in my life. I have no interest in working. I can get welfare from the government. So I can get a free allowance and never strive
Yeah,
to do better because there's no incentive.
no incentive to. I
I
know.
mean, you look at it when COVID was going on, people are getting more unemployment than if they would have
Yeah,
gone to work.
right. Yeah,
I I had people giving me a hard time because I refused to go on unemployment and I
yeah,
always had a job, even
right.
through COVID.
Yeah,
So the whole
right.
thing
No, for sure.
is I I don't think I've ever been on welfare. I've been on unemployment twice in
Yeah,
my life and I hated it.
yeah.
So,
I was on unemployment during COVID for like 3 weeks. Because I got because I had transitioned from out of the military, and I'd only been out for about 8 months.
right.
And I started working. Uh,
So you just got out of the military
yeah,
and
I started working for that company, um, and then COVID struck and kind of destroyed everything.
right,
So obviously, naturally, got laid off with everyone else.
right,
Um, so I had a family, and I didn't really have a whole lot of money, and nothing was managed or saved up and stuff. We were in the process of doing that. Um,
yeah,
so I went on unemployment. Um, it took them, it took the state of Florida 5 weeks to give me my first unemployment check. I only went on unemployment for like 3 weeks. So it was the first time I got paid for unemployment was 2 weeks after I had canceled my unemployment because I got a job. So I was out of work for 3 weeks, and I went to work for a local AT&T store, like a
right,
just a retail store selling cell phones to people.
right,
It was $12 an hour, but it was better than nothing. And as soon as I got that, I put in the paperwork on the computer and I immediately turned unemployment off. You know what I mean? And then 30 days later, I got my job back. So
right. Which is
yeah,
good there, but I mean that's I've
right,
I've heard of because I have like my mom that's in HR and I've talked
mhm,
with my boss and other people who have made it clear that just finding employees, well, I should restate that. My mom was in HR before she retired. Now she
right,
gets to enjoy the good life of coming to Virginia to help with the kids every now and then.
yeah,
But generally, even at that time she was HR, she's an HR manager during COVID and
Right.
for a while after COVID. And there's the unemployment rate is skyrocketing. People would come in and work for 2 days and realize that, hey, I'd rather just sit at home.
Yeah. Yeah. Why not?
Or
Yeah.
they would get hired and they wouldn't even show up because I think
Right.
in state of Ohio, where I'm originally from, there's a caveat that you have to keep applying for jobs, all this stuff,
Yeah. Same
and
thing
you have
with
to show
Florida.
that you're going on interviews. So even if you get a job offer, you
Yeah.
can simply say, "Nope, they never offered me a job,
Hmm.
never show up."
Right. That's
So
Florida. You get to do 5 a week in Florida.
yeah, but the whole concept is there's definitely ways around it,
Oh yeah.
but that's the big thing is people would come for interviews
Hmm.
and wouldn't return calls because after they got their interview, they met their
Yeah.
quota,
Yeah.
and then it was just sit at home and do nothing, play
Right.
video
They didn't
games.
care.
And
Yeah.
for me, my thought is, and this could be just my own prejudice and thinking, but if those were taught the value of money, and again, a lot of it doesn't just go towards the chores and the allowance and all this stuff,
Yeah.
but it's a mixture of everything that you teach your children.
Right.
But because teaching them a sense of accomplishment is a huge
Right.
thing, but if that kid, if that person learned like I was taught when I was younger, hey,
Right.
you do this, you won, you get accomplishment from
Yeah.
achieving. Like
Right.
I remember I had to scrape paint off of our front porch in the middle of the summer, and my stepdad said something to me, and I still get reminded by my mom of this, where she'll say, "Remember when you would always say, 'I'll hire somebody to do it?'" And now I'm sitting here going, I am not paying somebody this much money. Like, I have experience with electrical, obviously, since I mentioned it earlier.
Right.
So I was getting quotes done for having some electrical work done in my house, and one of the parts is changing out a bunch of receptacles. They wanted to
Yeah.
charge $700 to do that, and I'm
Yeah.
like, no, I'm not paying you. Now,
Right. Takes
me, I'm
3 minutes.
well, I have, I think, 14 receptacles.
Yeah.
So they're,
So practical.
yeah. So, but the concept still goes is it's
Yeah.
better value for me to take a vacation day, change out all the receptacles,
Yeah.
and do that instead of paying somebody to do something I can do myself.
Right.
And I think that plays back into the part of even being a dumb kid. And I'm not saying all kids are dumb and this and that, but you know,
Right.
we're definitely nowhere near as smart as we are now, or we weren't as smart now as we were when we were kids. If I
Right.
said right, hopefully.
I know what you mean.
hopefully hopefully people get what I'm saying. But the general
Yeah.
fact is we're constantly trying to do better, but teaching our kids to learn that value to me is highly important. Learn what your worth is and then instill that work of value to say sitting at home doing nothing
Hmm.
or doing something that's unproductive is not good. Now, if you're sitting
Right.
at home trying to build your own business, that's completely different.
You're right. Yeah.
But doing just sitting at home playing video games, drinking and getting stupid
Yeah.
is
Being lazy.
not a productive thing.
Right. Yeah.
I mean,
Absolutely. Um, I'm the same way. You know, uh, teaching your kids those general values as well. At home. But I mean, they ought to know that stuff. You know, it's part of life because if they don't know that stuff when they get older, essentially, I mean, it's like you said, they're going to expect it. You know, I mean,
right,
for lack of a better term, they're going to become a dirty socialist. And we don't want that.
right. Oh, trust me, I
Nobody
agree.
likes socialism.
So, yeah,
But but yeah, absolutely. I would say because I remember when I went on unemployment for those couple of weeks. I mean, when I finally got paid, you know, I basically was without pay for like a month, like the whole
Right.
time, because I had gone on unemployment and come off unemployment, and then started my new job. Had gone through the training, worked my new job for at least 2 weeks before I got my first unemployment check for payback. But when they paid it to me, I mean, it was like $1,000 for a week. Like, and it wasn't taxed. It was like 1,000 and change, and it was taxed or whatever. So the ending was $1,000 cash, like in my pocket, like a week. I was like,
Jeez.
"Ooh, yeah, for unemployment, I mean, that's nuts." And I mean, it was obviously COVID unemployment. It wasn't regular unemployment. I think regular
Right.
unemployment is like 350 a week or something like that. But it was COVID unemployment, and I was like, "Holy cow, man!" Yeah, so that's exactly what was happening. I started my new job and I was making $12 an hour. There ain't no way I'm making $1,000 a week off of $12 an hour. You
Right.
know, I mean, no way. So, I mean, it would have suited me and my family better to just
Sit at home.
quit my job and go get, unemployment again. But I was like, no, no, I actually kind of knew before I got the job, I kind of knew how much I would be getting for unemployment because you can look it up. And I
Right.
was just, to me, the way I was raised is, a sense of accomplishment, and also like moral values is worth more. I you know, and like we always preach here, family, and the respect of each other is very important. Your family is important. So if I am lazy and doing stuff like that just to get more money, and I'm also willing to just sit around and do nothing, for one, I'm at home all day long. You know, a marriage is not going to work out very well if you're at home, with nothing to do with your wife, constantly bugging her. It's different if you work from home because you're working, you got stuff to do. But if you're
Right.
at home and you're not working, she ain't working, the two of you are just sitting around, whatever, watching TV and goofing off, eventually it's just going to be like crashing heads. On top of that is, my wife, in a sense, does, you know, she's interested in getting a job, but she is also just like me, very traditional. The man is the primary, um, the primary provider. It's just because ultimately, I mean, she there's just no way it would take her 20 years to come up with a job that makes anywhere near what I make. You know what I mean? So, um, she just that's how she is. She's traditional like me. So a very, the man in the family, obviously leads and provides and all that stuff. So she looks to me to provide. So if I'm showing her that I'm like, and I'm just going to let the government provide us, in a sense, she gets that feeling of, you know, laziness. She's not really respecting me as a man, because the money isn't coming from me. I'm not showing that I'm working hard. So
Right.
it's the same concept. The same intrinsic value that you learn as a child doing chores and doing things like that, earning money and building up these different values and stuff, and learning general morals. Yeah, so that to me, that's why I was like, no, I'm not. I'm I'm going on unemployment because, you know what, I pay into it. I pay my taxes. You know what I'm saying? So I put my money into unemployment insurance through the federal government. So, I deserve my unemployment if I'm unemployed, but it's
Right.
also my responsibility as a man, as a husband, and a father, as well as an American citizen, to do everything in my power to re-get gainful employment as quickly as possible. So
Yep.
that's just the way I was raised as well. And I feel like doing some of those things kind of will help teach children that stuff to me.
And with that, I think that's a good foot to end the show on because
Yeah.
so because we're starting to drift off into another topic of values that I absolutely
Oh
would
yeah.
love to discuss, which we can do at another time. I
Yeah.
know that people, I want to let people know that right now we're working on some stuff to get things nicer for everyone to enjoy the show. Like we have a guest coming on, and the Evolved Dad, he's going to be a guest on our show, which
Yeah.
we've enjoyed the conversation with him. In fact, by the time this airs, he would have already been on. We would have
Yeah.
already had him on the show at this time. But we're going to have more guests on. I have another guest already scheduled. So we also have we're trying to get a forum set up, which it's going to start off with invitation only. So if
Mhm.
you want to be part of this forum, send a message through the website where we're going to do beta testing, try to work out the bugs with small group of people. And by this time that you're hearing this, it should hopefully be to the point that we're beta testing and allowing invites for people to come in there and see what we're doing.
Yeah.
So this here, I we have a support group kind of thing on Truth Social. But
Mhm.
the one thing that we both feel like is that with any social media platform, something could just be pulled out. We could be banned, we could be
Right.
disconnected. I mean, whoever you are, plus, you know,
Not
it's
everybody
also
has True Social.
right. Well, it's that plus, if you have to people that are on Facebook, Twitter,
Right.
X, True Social, what Metrodon or whatever the other ones are, get get something, get
Yeah.
her, whatever they are. There's people in almost all these different social medias, and a lot
Mhm.
of times, a lot of these social medias don't cross, so you don't because political reasons, like
Right.
me, certain ones have certain policies in their terms of services that I disagree with, so I don't get on them.
Right.
But generally, the point of this forum is going to be so that no matter what your political thoughts are on anything, religious thoughts, whatever, you can come to this forum. You can, I think right now I have it set up so there's a section for dad jokes. If you want to give your best dad joke, let's hear it. And people can go and try to say it. If you want to give random discussion, I even have a self promotion section on there. So if you're
Mhm.
trying to start something as a dad, you can go to the self promotion section only to promote your thing. Any other location, I'm planning on booting people off, but self
Mhm.
promotion, all there for you. So hopefully, as we grow, we're going to be doing more because we want to provide a community that is going to be there for people to able to enjoy, support each other, connect. And another big thing that I'm planning on having as a section so that people that are not dads can come on and try to get dad advice. Because a big thing that I'm planning on, hopefully, we're going to have as a topic is the lack of dads and the kids. Where do they reach out to get advice from dads? You
Mhm.
know, so I see on Reddit quite a few times people come on and say, "Hey, my dad died when I was young. I just need some advice on this or that."
Right.
And again, not everyone's on Reddit, so not everyone's going doing that. So this is
Yeah.
why this forum is going to be something that we really value because we're hoping that it gives all of our listeners, all of our community, something else to value, grow, and you don't have to worry about social platforms. We're
Yeah.
as long as we're going, this is going to be there. And right now, Mr. Pancake and I both are in this for the long haul to try to make something that's going to benefit fathers all around
Yeah.
and build that traditional information back up for you. So, with that being said, I think that was enough a rant. Go to callwithdads.com where you can find everything we're doing. You can find all of our actual social medias out there that we have. Call It Dads is, instead of us telling you where we are on social media, Call It Dads is basically the best and quickest way to go find what we're doing, find our
Everything going on,
articles, find us on social media and YouTube, our audio, podcasts, wherever you want to find. So all of our information's there. Go enjoy
Yeah.
it. Hopefully you find value enough. If you want, if you feel like you want to help us grow a little bit more, we have a buy a cup of coffee thing set up so you can donate some coffee to us. And any money we do make is going back to the expense of the show, hopefully upgrading hardware, improving the servers, or even hiring somebody eventually to improve the website so that it gives you dads or anybody listening to this more value in what we're providing. We both have full-time jobs. That's where we make our money. Any money given is dedicated for the show. So
Yeah.
with that being said, thank you.
Absolutely.
So that's that. Have a good
All
day.
right. Yeah. Talk to you later. Bye.